Salut coders, this is Pisky here. In this demo video, it's a continuation of video call, but right now I want to show you how you can share your screen with the other user. So let's get started. So this device, we'll call another one. As you can see, the other device is ringing and you can answer the call, and both devices are now on video call. So I can share my screen and I can start sharing. Let's wait. Yeah, it's showing on other device. This video, I wanted to show you screen sharing, and I can also go back and cancel screen sharing. Based on our blog, you can visit Code with Bisq, and you can go to the last second from last, which is the screen. You can go to this free screen sharing blog. If you open this blog, we can follow this blog if you want to implement screen sharing on your Flutter application. The initiation of a video call, remember on the previous video we implemented it using Flutter and the Appwrite, where in Appwrite database we are storing our candidates and also the offer and the answer details STPs. So let's now follow this blog, and we are using Flutter WebRTC library. And if your user initiated a video call, we are going to, after the answering, the user will be able to share screen. One user can share a screen to other user, and also remotely, if another user started to show, it will cancel the sharing of screen of the other user. So let's add this dependence, which is Flutter background. So the library that we are going for screen sharing, it will depend on this Flutter background for us to implement screen sharing. So let's use this Flutter background dependence, and we can add it in our pubspec YAML. By this date, we are using version 1.2.0. Remember, on this application we will keep on updating each and every time, so it's good to come in maybe in future and checking based on the latest version of Flutter and dependents that are out there. Then you click pubget. So after doing this, we added our dependency. So let's go in our video call state. The easiest way to look for this class is to go in our view model, which is video call view model, and in our video view model we have this class, we have this state. So go in here and add this property, which is screen sharing, so that we know that the state is now screen sharing, so that we know that we are representing something. And let's add this dependency. Let's go to our room Appwrite and add this string, which is presenting user ID, so that we can add this ID to know the user who is sharing. So we don't want 2 or 3 people to be able to share at the same time, so one user at a time. So now let's go to our model, which is room Appwrite, this one. And then do this here. So after doing this, what we can do is to run this command. We can run this command, which is this one. So it will generate these dependencies. there's a D that I want to delete. So these properties will be generated in the part file, which is Appwrite G. So on your site, on your database, make sure you can add this. You can add this to your room Appwrite a collection. Create this field on your Appwrite by going to Appwrite and log in into your Appwrite. Select your project. Then select database, your database, and choose the go to the collection, which is, oh sorry, I think the collection is the first one, core rooms. Here there's an error. I think it's because of the update. Yeah, there was an error. So go to your attributes and add this field presenting user ID, and it's of type string, and you can put maybe 50 for the length. You are okay. So after doing that, let me double click and come back to our blog. Now in our one-to-one video, before we go there, let's go to this room repository provider. Let's go to providers. Go to your core providers, room repository provider. In here, we want to add this method, which is the method to update the user who is presenting. So just copy this, copy the implementation. This implementation is just to update the user who is representing. Sorry. So you can see here we are just updating the user ID of the person who's presenting something. So we're sharing the screen. So after doing that, let's go to our view model, which is this one. We can close other tabs. In here, we want to import this user repository. Just import on top of the part. Let's follow these steps. Let's add this. Let's add these variables. The user repository and the here is supposed to be, it's a comment, the user repository and the callback when a user is presenting something. Let's go to our listeners. We have the callee listener and this one sync where we are listening, and we look for the room. And in here, before we close it here, we want to add this thing. Add this room state, and also on this callee listener, and this one is for callee listening to the callee collection. We are more concerned on this one. We are more concerned on this one, which is the collection room ID. So we want to cancel screen sharing. So this is a listener. So we will add this implementation. So add below methods to handle screen sharing. So don't worry, for this method you are going to add it. So copy this, copy these methods. These are the methods that you are using to handle screen sharing. Then For set screen sharing, this one, I think we must add this also. So we must add that also. Let's go on top. In here we have to add this set screen sharing, and here it's going to be a bool, and I just say input screen sharing. I think what's the sharing screen, and it's going to be an input. It's okay. One error resolved. Cancel. And this one, so far we didn't add these methods, so let's just continue with our logic. So in our close stream, just copy this. In our close stream here, we need to cancel. This is the bug that we already have on the previous videos, so we want to close also this. We want to close the remote stream, peer connection, and hang up. So in our join room, this method, there's also another bug that was already there. So just copy this, and in our peer connection, let's look for the peer connection here. We want also to assign this to this peer connection. So we want to use it later, this variable. So in our right now we don't have the implementation of this thing, which is cancel screen sharing. So let's do this and create a method for this to so that the error will disappear. This is where we are going to handle the cancel screen sharing, so we can do that later. So in here, let's go to this into our screen, which is video call view screen. So let's go and delete this method. We don't need it. Just delete it. And in our dispose method, yeah, before this one, we need to add this also. So we are not closing the local stream and so let's delete this. It's not necessary. Then we want to add this button to share a screen. Let's go to our, this is a floating button, so let's go to our, this way is our buttons. Core buttons. We want to look for here in our buttons here, between this mic, I think. Yeah, we want to add this button. Let's add this. This is for screen sharing. Let's see where this was opened. Yeah, let's add this. So let's just add the following. This one, there's an error if we don't add this, and we can just say this one is for cancel. This one is for speaker. What about this one? Is for sharing. We want to add this hero tag. This one is for mic. So in our implementation here, for screen sharing, we added that if the screen sharing is by default it's false. So it's false, then we initiate share screen, and this share screen will check in the database if the user, we check the user if there's other user who is presenting something. If the user is there, we then we show a dialog. On that dialog, we are going to allow to give a confirmation to user that someone is sharing, and do you want to continue? Then you can continue. Otherwise, if you are initiator, you can start, or someone is just cancelled sharing, and you can start without forcing you to share. And we are using media constraints, audio true, video true, because we want to share the video. And for iOS, we use the broadcast. For type video, the device ID is broadcast. So for iOS, this logic works for iOS. That's why we said for platform iOS. And then for iOS, when you are doing screen sharing, we use this method, which is get display media, and we pass our media constraints. And this media constraints it know that this implementation is for screen sharing. So this implementation is different for the one that for video, showing of using video camera. This one we use it for screen sharing. And here we are now connected. We are now getting the media tracks, like the data of the details that you are scaling, of the data of your device, which is the video that is coming from your device from sharing a screen, and also the audio. So here we are looking for the type. We are looking for the type video. If the type is video, then we can replace the new track with the latest. So we are removing the old one, which was video, which was 1-on-1, and we are now placing the screen sharing. Then here we know that the local stream is not now, and on our local stream we are saying the state now changed to true, and on our database we are updating that this new user is now sharing. So for cancelling is the opposite. We are just doing the same, right? But in here, for cancelling, we want to share your camera. Your video camera is no longer screen sharing, and we are using an existing create stream that we were using here before, which is we are using user media, and we are using video, which is the front camera if it exists. If it doesn't exist, we use a back camera. So the preference is front camera. So this is for cancel screen sharing. Remember, we are supposed to replace the media by using we are replacing the old media of screen sharing with the new one for video sharing, which is now your front camera. Then we set the state to what? To the user is no longer sharing, is now false. And we can now, on our room, we can now update that with a now. It means the user is cancelled sharing and no one is presenting something. So that's the logic, and that's all from here. So after doing this, in our module view here, we want to add in our listener, core event listeners, we want to add this listener, which is add this listener for listening user who is presenting. So if someone is sharing, we'll be listening to this. There's an event which will be invoked in our view model that the other user is presenting, and in here we just copy this logic. Just copy this logic. This one is a model view. It's a bottom sheet to show the user who's presenting, like details of user who's presenting, and the button to force user to share. So here it will just display the message. So let me look for when in here I want to show you. You see, I'm calling the other user that this user is presenting is presenting the screen. So that's the callback of this dialog that we implemented, or with their phone number. If the user doesn't exist, we can show by the phone number. So this callback will show this dialog that this user, this is the message, this user is presenting something. Do you want to continue? Then continue sharing. Then that user will be automatically discarded from screen sharing. Then your screen is now, so we allow one person at a time for screen sharing. So after doing this, we need also to do some changes on our main class. So in our main class, let's look for the main class. In our main class here, we must import this package that we added, which is the Flutter background, and we are supposed to initialize this, and we supposed to initialize in initialize service. In here, search for this method, which is initialize this one. In this method, on the first line of this method, let's add this logic. This one is to initialize the screen sharing when user is now in screen sharing, to get the permission to allow user to share screen. So our application is called with BISC, and this one is for background notification, to keep code with BISC running when the user is sharing a screen. You will see this notification, and also in here we are just initializing our application so that these configurations are dependent on the logic of screen sharing. So remember, and just know that when we initiate display screen here, when we initiate this, it's depending also on this logic. So we are supposed to initialize this, and in our Android manifest we must add these permissions so that this logic will work. So let's go to our Android manifest. Look for Android app source main manifest. On our permission, let's add these permissions, right? And they are required for this library, which is Flutter background. And here, add this one, add this service. This service is responsible for screen sharing. So we can use something that is already there by not creating our own service. So let's use this service. Isolate hold server, and this will allow media projection. As you can see, it will allow us to share our screen. So by doing this, our application will be able to share screen. So let me show you how, before we test this on Android, we want also to do you can see here we are doing these configurations. They were just for Android, but we didn't do anything for iOS. So let's do the logic for the implementation for iOS. And for iOS, we have to, let me close this. So before I start to do the logic for iOS, we already add this dependency, which is the Flutter background. And in here, in my README, I want to do pod install. So let me change the directory cd iOS so that I can install this dependency for iOS. Yeah, everything is sorted for based on our packages. So what you can do for iOS screen sharing, there's a lot that we are supposed to do in here. And what we can do is that let's go to the iOS package folder, this iOS folder, and let's open this iOS folder For me, I can open in Finder. For this iOS folder, I want to open this runner XC workspace, Xcode workspace. Double click this one. So these changes must be done in Xcode. So make sure you have if you are an iOS developer and you have a Mac, follow these steps. If you are an Android developer, it's okay. You can start to test the application. But if you want your application to work also for an iOS, you must follow these steps, because it won't work for iOS devices. So right now I want to show you the implementation of screen sharing on iOS. It's a bit complicated, but we can do it right now together. So for iOS, let's follow these steps now. What we can do first, on our runner, this runner, we can go to capability, and then we search app groups. We're supposed to create a group first. So this group, this one is for our application. So let's create a group. As you can see here, we need to create a group. So I already have this group. For you, you can add another one, and you can specify the group name. You can add your own group. For me, I'm going to use this one, which is group.com.chat.code with BISC. It's like I just copy my bundle identifier, and then I put group first, then append with my bundle identifier. So after doing this, let's follow the blog. In our blog, we want also to create. So I know the flow, and to increase speed, so let's do this. Let's go to, now we want to create the extension for iOS. For the extension, we just do File, New, Target, and the target will be Broadcast Upload Extension. So just click Broadcast Upload Extension, choose this one, click Next, and in here type the name of the extension. For me, it's Broadcast Extension. Let me go there. If you follow this blog, it's Broadcast Extension. As you can see, I can say Broadcast Extension. And in here, include UI extension. Make sure don't tick this one. It's not necessary. And click Finish. And then click Activate. So you can see in here, this folder was created, which is Broadcast Extension. This is the extension that we are going to use for screen sharing for our application. And this one is the default symbol handler. We will replace this one. Then in here, if you go to our runner, before we forget, we need to add also a group for this broadcast extension. Like what we did on runner, we added this group, and in here this thing and this thing must be in same group. So go click this target, go to signing capability, app group, and create your own group. For me, I'm using this one, existing. For you to create a group, just click this and enter your group, whatever you want, but this group must be same with this group. They must be in the same group name. They must use the same group name. So after doing this, we are okay now. So what we can do next, there are files that we are supposed to add. So these files, I already have this file. If you follow my blog here, you can see I added a link. This link. You can download the files or clone the project and get these files. And these files must be in the broadcast extension. As you can see, they must be in the broadcast extension. So you must add these files. The Info.plist is the one that you currently have, and you must add the other ones. So the broadcast extension entitlement, this one must match the same of the broadcast extension, the name that you provided. If you provide a different name, just change it to match this one. This entitlement is required. What we can do after doing this in our Xcode, we want to I already have these files, so make sure you have those files somewhere, and I have those files in my desktop. I think these are the files, and I will copy all the files except the sample handler, and I will remove the sample handler, and I will copy them inside the broadcast extension, and make sure we are putting them into broadcast extension, and copy items if needed. Check this, right? Create folder reference true, and then click finish. So by doing this, we are now okay. These are the files that we are used for atomic broadcast extension. This is the entitlement, and also this connection. This connection is for connection to our to the media that we want to transmit, and we are using local file, so we are writing on the local device and pass this device over the network, and the other user will be able to stream. And then we have the sample handler, and in our sample, so I think, what did I copy here? Sample handler and sample handler. So this one, I'm supposed to remove one of these, which is this one. Let's delete this. Let's move it to trash. I think here when I selected, I'm supposed to add this sample uploader, not, and do this. Yeah, this is the sample handler. For a sample handler, the group that we created, make sure you update with the group that you created here. So your sample handler is supposed to have the group name of the extension. Make sure your group that you created, you can update it here also. And our socket connection, it's okay here. And this is our broadcast. So by doing this, we are now okay for the iOS, and we are just left with the few things here. So these things, let's go back to this, to our project. In our iOS folder, let's go into our runner of the application. We want to add the group, and here we are allowed it to know that. Let me format. So in here, we are telling that for our screen sharing extension, we are letting that the application, when we want to share a screen, we are telling it to use this extension that we created. So this extension, this file extension name, you can get it here in our Xcode. If you choose runner, you can see this is the extension name. So this is the extension name. This is what we are putting in here. So that's why we created an extension. It's required for screen sharing. So if we are doing screen sharing, this key is required. Remember, this is our new extension, and this is the Info.plist. Info.plist, we have other things here. So you know that since we have other things in here, we must add this in here also. So this is the group. We are just adding the group that we created. Remember that this same group is the one that we also added. This group is the one that we also added here. So the extension and the application, they are now in same group. So after doing this, we will be able to share screen. So let's test our application, and I will show you how screen sharing works. So let me get the real devices. So right now I have two devices that are currently running. On the left, this is an Android, and on the right, this is an iOS. So let me try to call this user. The other phone is now ringing. Let me answer it. And both the devices are now on video call. As you can see, this device and this device are now on video call. So let me share a screen of this Android one, and then I start sharing. It's now sharing. It means our implementation are now working fine. As you can see, it's now showing on the other side of the user. Then you can do this, and you can come back, and I can cancel screen sharing. After canceling, you can see I'm now back here. For iOS, you can do this, and you then say broadcast the extension that we created. So this feature is not available when I'm doing AirPlay, since I'm broadcasting this device on this. So it will work. As you can see, the screen sharing works on iOS. So thank you guys for watching this video. If you are new to this channel, may you kindly subscribe, like, comment, share. Salut coders.